What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto where
Welcome to episode 1635 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities like ours, good times like we're about to have, and brewing amazing beer, which we're not going to crack open because it's 10 a.m. But I'll have one with the same GLB crew at noon. Drink them if you got them. Order online for free. Local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. I bought some of their arrabbiata sauce. Unbelievable. A little spicy for the kids, but man, they make a good arrabbiata sauce. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Building Toronto Skyline, a podcast and book from Nick Iones, sponsored by Fusion Corp Construction Management, Inc., and Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today is the official Toronto historian of the Toronto Mic'd podcast. It's Jeremy Hopkin.
Good morning, Mike.
Welcome back, Jeremy.
How's it going?
Your first visit of 2025.
Yeah, and I had a great year last year with you, and I hope to have another one.
Well, let me recap last year, and then we'll catch up for a moment and introduce the topic. Heck, tell me what the topic today is right now, actually.
Okay, this is an idea that actually FOTM Moose Grumpy had. She came to me at the last TMLX, and we were talking about I was thinking of ideas for the next episode, and she said, oh, what about things that are hidden in Toronto? And I went, well, that's kind of cool, but what do you really define as hidden? And we didn't really figure that out there, so I've just been thinking about it since then.
She's just the idea person, okay?
Yeah.
You're supposed to take that, and then you're supposed to run with it.
I thought it was a great idea, though, and then I thought about all these little weird things that I know about that probably nobody else knows about, and I thought, hey, that could make a great episode.
Well, I love it, because I have no idea. I guess you're going to count down 10? Do you have it to 10?
I do have a rough listing of 10. We'll start off at 10 and go to 1.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm looking forward, and I'll tell you if I knew about it or not. Like, I'll be very honest. Hidden Toronto.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Torontonians that are in the know, and any Torontonian who's in the know is subscribed to Toronto Mic'd, and they're definitely cherry-picking those Jeremy Hopkin episodes, okay, every quarter. So let me tell the listenership that this is your first visit in 2025 because we're still in Q1, but you were here. Let me just recap this very quickly. Mm-hmm. In 2024, and we only started your quarterly visits in 2024 because I met you at a TMLX event at Palma's Kitchen in Mississauga in, I want to say, early December or late November. I can't remember, but it was 2023. So the end of 2023.
Yes, that sounds right.
I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, hey, man, come over because I love talking about Toronto history. And you came over in April 2024, episode 1468. So all the hop heads can catch up. Hop heads are also GLB drinkers, I feel like that.
Well, and I don't know where the origin of my name comes from, but it could be the kin of the hop. Maybe they really liked brewing beer or something back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Your peoples were brewers back in the day, absolutely. So April 2024, and it was episode 1468. Mm-hmm. And I wrote, Mike is joined by Toronto historian Jeremy Hopkin to discuss 10 Toronto buildings that should not have been demolished.
Yes.
So 10 buildings that are no longer here, but we wish they were here. And that was amazing.
Thank you.
You had like visual aids and everything, and you can't hear those visual aids, but somewhere there's probably video. But
yeah, it's good for your YouTube coverage.
Love it. May 2024 was episode 1492. You came back. So that was Q1, January, February, March. You were late for Q1, so we had to get you right back to get Q2 satisfied. So May 2024, that was episode 1492. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. So you were sailing the ocean blue.
And that was the one where we felt bad about talking about all these broken, destroyed buildings. So we talked about buildings that we saved.
So these are buildings that, 10 buildings that should not have been demolished, and thankfully were not demolished.
Yes.
So they're still here today. We saved them.
Yep. And some of those were fought for by people, and some of them were just miraculously saved.
What a great episode. Okay, so then you came back in August 2024. It was episode 1541, and we discussed 10 things, so like TV shows or movies that were filmed in Toronto.
Yeah, and that was sort of
music videos.
A timely episode because TIFF was happening right around that time, so I thought we would talk about that then.
Well, I can see that I had a lot to say. I can tell by the length of the episode how much I had to add.
Oh, yeah, you did. You had your personal story about Cinderella Man.
Oh, my goodness.
And I love
Shout
that.
out to Michelle.
That was great.
I'll never forget. Okay, 2 hours we went that day, so we're not going 2 hours today, but October 2024 was your most recent visit. It was episode 1572, and you shared with me the top 10 Toronto ghost stories. This was a Halloween podcast spectacular.
Yeah, we had fun on that one. We even dressed up. That was cool by the Toronto tree.
Speaking of dressing up, I want to let the listenership know who aren't watching the video on YouTube that you are wearing a raccoon's sweater.
Yeah, for sure.
Cyril Sneer.
Yeah. Well, this isn't Cyril. This is one of the raccoons. I forget his name. I haven't watched it in a long time.
That's the main guy, and I can't remember his name either. I'm going to check. Maybe Canada Kev or Dan J or somebody will tell me in the live stream. But that was like an ecological show we watched as kids when we had hope.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because Cyril Sneer wanted to cut down the forest, and they lived in the forest, and they wanted to save it, and it was very much about the environment and about saving it and cherishing that too.
And now our hope is dwindling, but we're doing what we can, right, J-Ho?
Yes, definitely. We're trying. You got to fight the good fight, and it's never going to end. You're always going to have to fight for this kind of stuff.
Well, you know that you're not throwing your electronics and your cables in the garbage because you're keeping those chemicals out of our landfill. You're going to recyclemyelectronics.ca.
Definitely. Whenever I have an antique electronic I don't want, I would definitely throw it in there.
All right. Check the live stream. Come on, Canada Kev. This is your assignment. Who's the main raccoon on the raccoons? I can tell you this much. Next week, somebody who's going to be visiting the basement is used to do voices on the raccoons. So Stu Stone is in the calendar for next week.
Oh, I didn't know he did raccoons as well. That's
yeah,
amazing.
This guy's prolific. Okay, I'm telling you, when you dive into the Stu Stone IMDb page, you're going to be there a while. That's what I'm telling you.
Stu Stone's a bit of a pokeroo for me. Every event I come to, he's not there.
But the guy's always filming the dark side of the ring. It keeps him on the road.
He's very busy right now. Yeah, and also with Don't F with Ghosts.
He goes to Winnipeg for that one. I'm going to kind of lock him down next week, and I'm going to tell him he has to attend TMLX 18, which is now confirmed. It's going to be June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Great Lakes Brewery, which is 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in South Etobicoke. I'm going to make sure Stu Stone's there. Will you, J-Ho, be at TMLX 18 on June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m.?
As long as the heart's ticking, I'm going to be there.
Okay, I want you there, even if you're at Ridley Funeral Home. I want Brad to roll you in.
I'll get Brad to roll me in, yeah.
Because he'll do a good job and preserve you, drain those fluids.
He's got a beautiful new hearse. I would love to be rolled in that.
Well, you know what? Cross your fingers, and then your dream will come true. So shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. Shout out to Great Lakes Brewery for hosting us. There's some beer on the table for you, J-Ho, but you brought yourself a coffee, so you can bring that home with you.
Thank you.
And, of course, there is a lasagna in my freezer for you from Palma Pasta. So the last note before we dive into Hidden Toronto is much love to Nick Iones from Fusion Corp, because he was my guest a couple of weeks back. You can get to know more about Nick. The good, the bad, the ugly. Nick Iones, reasonable man that you can talk to. And if you have a convincing argument, which, that's what we do, right, J-Ho? We bring our facts to the table, and we have convincing arguments. And he'll have an open mind and change his mind on different things. Lanrick Bennett Jr. has him sold on the need for some bike lanes in Toronto to help us cyclists get around. So shout out to Nick Iones, because he opened his wallet and he said, I want to keep this going. I love the conversations I hear on Toronto Mike. I want my quarterly Jeremy Hopkin fix.
Yeah, cool.
So much love to Nick, who did attend a TMLX event at the GLB Brew Pub. So we love this guy, and we look forward to hearing more from Nick in the future. Are you going to be watching the hockey game tonight?
I think I am. Actually,
What, you think you are? What if your heart's ticking? What's keeping you from it?
Well, we were going to do a pub dive tonight, but no, not anymore. So.
Well, the pub you dive into, hopefully it serves GLB, and it will have the game on TV, right?
It probably will, yeah. It'll probably be way too noisy to talk anyway, so yeah.
And that might be the way to go. Like, my 10-year-old's into this, so I'm not going to a pub tonight. Because bringing the 10-year-old to a pub at like 10:30 at night, I'm not
No.
sure that's great parenting or whatever. But we're pretty jazzed about this. I'm wearing my Canada jersey. You got the raccoon sweater. I got my Canada jersey on. I wore it for Marcy Ian yesterday. I'm pretty damn anxious and excited about 8 p.m. tonight, puck drop. And again, I don't know the numbers, but a lot of people will hear this episode, believe it or not, day it drops, which is today, the 20th.
Yes.
And they'll have consumed it before the game. But I think more people, the vast majority of people, will actually listen to this after the game. So they'll know whether we had a good night or a sad night. Any predictions from you, Jeremy Hopkin?
I want Canada to win.
Well, imagine you told me you wanted USA. I'd kick you out of my basement. Don't think I won't do it. I'm looking forward to the first time I kick a guest out of my basement.
Never have Canadians been this passionate. Well, it's been a long time, so it's nice to see that again. People passionate about kicking people out of basements.
You know what? Nothing unites a people like a common enemy.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And we got one now.
Oh, just we so do.
All right, man. I feel like go Canada, go. Glad you got here through the snow. They're starting to so I guess step one was to plow.
Yeah.
Although, so I biked with my 8-year-old to school today, and we have a bike lane on a street called Birmingham, and I can tell you, unrideable. We had to take the lane. No, nobody plowed. So anybody who,
Wow.
and there's a bike lane. The Waterfront Trail has a connection, like a separated bike lane from First Street to Norris Crescent.
Oh, wow.
And I rode it a couple of times yesterday. Oh, I did ride it because it's actually unrideable too. It's as if they put all the snow in the bike lane. So they cleared all the snow from driveways and the street. And it's all about you couldn't walk that bike lane, okay? So I had to
Jeez.
take a lane on Lakeshore and
And you know,
but they're starting to remove some snow.
You know it's unrideable when you don't ride it because you ride in anything.
Yeah, you can't ride like mountains of snow.
Yeah.
So no go. My friend, the mic is yours. People
Okay.
are tired of my voice. I don't blame them at all.
No worries. No, your voice is fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, is it a good voice?
Yeah, it works. It's perfect.
I need
it's perfect for
my
Toronto
tires.
Mike.
My tire. Well, good because it's the only voice I have. I could do something. No, I don't have any other voice. Okay, Jeremy Hopkin, hit in Toronto. So it's going
Okay.
10-1.
Well, yeah. Is it okay if I do a little bit before that?
You know what? Take your time. Honestly.
All right. I just wanted to, since our friend Robert Lawson didn't Robert Lawson me, I thought I would Robert Lawson myself for
That's
this
a fact check.
for the season. And the last 4 episodes, the first 4, 10 Toronto buildings. I was trying to think of a dance hall that was down at the Lakeshore, and it was the Palace Pier I was trying to get out of my head, but I couldn't. So the Palace Pier, but I thought it was more over this way, but it's actually technically in Humber Shores now. So if you listen to that episode, that's the one I'm trying to spit out there. Also, 299 Queen Street West.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I should have known they weren't turning it into a train station or anything like that. Because even back then, they weren't planning on doing that for the Ontario line or
Okay,
for
why did I get that
Queen
bad
line.
info in my? I think I misled you on that one.
It's probably not misled. There's a lot of things thrown out there in the press.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ideas that people had. So that could have just been one of those.
Okay,
Other than that,
sure.
yeah.
Did Bell Media sell that building?
They didn't sell the building. Apparently, they're revamping it for, I think, Bloomberg is the company coming in.
Oh, so, okay, well,
or that
they-
part of it is.
Okay,
But-
they own Bloomberg, right?
Yeah, it's one of their divisions. So, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. The great Jeremy Hopkin. It's only his 5th appearance. He doesn't know you turn off your. And as I remind you to turn off your
I
ringer.
plead the 5th.
I'm doing the same because it would be awful if mine just rang out at that moment. But okay, so any more fact checks from
Yeah,
your
there's
previous visits?
a few more that I can throw in there. The second episode, I said Henry Pellet, the owner of Casa Loma, had died in his former chauffeur's house. Or no, his gardener's house, but it was actually his chauffeur's house. So
No, I'm glad you corrected that one.
I got that
because
one
I got a
right.
lot of angry emails about that one. They're like, you guys are supposed to know what you're talking about. Gardener, chauffeur.
it's a good thing you guys have good security at the new Toronto border because if they got through, man.
Oh my goodness. Whose side are you on when New Toronto and Mimico meet up on Dwight to battle it out?
Oh boy. Well, I'm coming here, man. I'm
You're
on
New
your
Toronto
side.
guy?
Yeah,
okay,
of
thank you.
course.
Because, we got to get these Tyler Campbells out of here and retain the Mimico Joes. Okay,
Right
so,
on.
all right, thank you. Any more fact checks?
in that same episode, E.J. Lennox, I was trying to think of a building that he had that was currently at risk that was at U of T. And you thought maybe you knew it, but it was the Stewart building I was trying to think of. Since then, there's new news. It's actually going to become a student residence. So they are saving that building.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building. It kind of looked like an old skyscraper that he designed earlier. So it was nice that they saved it. It was built for the Toronto Athletic Club. Also, there was another instance in that episode.
How many mistakes, Jeremy Hopkin?
Oh no!
Do I need Adam Bunch in here?
A couple of these are just clarifications too, because we were talking about Zennials, and we're trying to think of the years that they were the Zennials, and it's from 1977 to 83. So your wife is a Zennial, I'm a Zennial.
So that's like a hybrid, like you're part Gen X, part millennial.
Yes, there's so many technological.
Yeah, my wife's 81.
Advances that happened in that time too. That they're kind of a different breed of people. It's weird how they define them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I did think, okay, so there's a little bit of a fringe there on each side.
Definitely.
Zennials. Okay.
And I also couldn't think of my wife's birthday that episode.
Wow.
1983. So there you go. She's one as well.
Well, you can't track these things. You got a lot going on. Does your wife ever listen to your appearances on Toronto Mike?
She does, and she's shown a few of her friends the appearances, and they said, "Hey, you did great on there."
She's not ashamed of the fact that now we need to fact check everything. Now I need to get Robert Lawson listening even closer.
No, she's just glad to get me out of the house, and and that I'm not fact checking shows in front of her and stuff like that.
Oh, that's funny.
So it can be irritating, and I've tried to. I tried to lay off on it a little bit, but because, if you got someone spouting out stuff all the time about things, it's annoying.
Listen, okay, just to go talk to Monica about that, okay? Okay. She's been living with me for 14 years or so. Okay, my friend.
Okay.
I am so primed for the top 10 hidden Toronto.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's your cue. That's your cue.
Okay, the first thing I could think of was one place that people really aren't allowed to go in, and a lot of even doors open, is the attics of places. So a few of them I thought about right away, that ones that had been, unfortunately and fortunately, our prices in Toronto have gone up for rent. So a lot of those places that were inaccessible are all of a sudden becoming accessible because people have to make use of every square inch of buildings.
Right.
So one place I was thinking of right off the top of my head was in the King Edward Hotel. There is the Crystal Ballroom on the top of the 1922 Tower Edition, the higher part of the King Edward Hotel. And it was basically named for the incredible crystal chandeliers that hang in there, very beautiful decorations in there. And it drew a lot of high-profile events, and a lot of big bands played there, kings, princes, you name it, had visited that location.
But not Prince.
I don't know if Prince was in there, but he could have been.
But other princes.
Other princes, yes. And in 1979, a lot of the building codes got strict, and they had to shut it down because it didn't meet fire code and a few other codes. So it sat basically vacant and just used as storage up until 2017, when they got the idea to restore it and have a grand opening. And they use it. They've used it for a lot of high-profile events since then, and it's just beautiful inside. Unfortunately, of course, COVID, and it's not really great to have that happen right when you open up a new event venue.
Well, tell that to Michael Weckerly.
Yes, the El Macombo.
You want to go in and buy it with me?
I would love to if I had the cash.
We'll just have like TMLX events at the El Macombo.
Apparently, the recording studio in there is incredible.
Donovan Bailey, I produced his show, and there was they met on a beach, and I don't know where they were, at a wedding or something. Michael Weckerly and Donovan Bailey are buddies apparently, and Michael said, "Hey, Donovan, use my facility." And I biked over one day to get a tour. There's a guy named Andre who works there, and he gave me this thorough tour everything.
I met him before too.
Okay, you met Andre. Okay. And basically, we strongly considered recording there, and I decided, nah, it's better here. And it was, I didn't spend $20 million, but we did it here instead.
It's a much nicer commute down just stairs instead, yeah.
We don't need that El Macombo studio, but yeah, he sunk a lot of money. But now that the news is coming out that I guess he borrowed the money and never paid it back. So there's some stuff going on there. But that's all in the mainstream media news you could read. But
right.
But back to the King Eddie.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many, like, I know that once a year I get invited by FOTM David Kynes to go to what he calls the Hollywood Suite Breakfast.
Oh.
And it's a really cool event. Like, I hang out with the Jonathan Grossmans of the world and the Ed Conroys of the world and, Joel Goldbergs. And these guys are all hanging out there. And it's a great breakfast. I love it. I don't know what room I'm in. Like, I'm in a big, beautiful ballroom. Like, does King Eddie have a bunch of these?
It does have a few ballrooms.
Okay, I don't want to say I was in this crystal ball. Is it open now?
It is open now. It's a very big, spacious.
Well, this is a
ballroom.
big, spacious ballroom.
I think some of their other ones are a little bit smaller, but even those are fairly large. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, while you talk about your number 9, I will search my Gmail to find out what room I'm in when I go to the King Eddie. Shout out to Jerry Levitan, Sir
right.
Jerry. But I have news about the raccoon we did not name effectively. This
Sweet.
Raccoon's name is Bert Raccoon.
How could I have forgotten that?
I know,
Yes.
but I forgot too. But it's like you don't see it anymore. We watched it in literally the mid to late 80s. I guess this show ran from 85 to 91.
I love that show when it was on, but yeah, I couldn't think of his name at all.
No, I loved it too.
It's
They had
been a very
the
long time.
faucet noses, basically. And
Yeah, it looks like their eyes are handles for the faucet.
Yeah.
For the sneers.
And one more note here before we get to your number 9 and I find out what room I was in. This is like a radio, like mainstream media would have like teasers, like coming up after the break. We'll tell you the top reason men forget their wives' birthdays or whatever, right? So
King Eddie actually had a radio station for a number of years too, built right into one of their rooms.
See, you never know it'll trigger a fun fact out of you. Okay, so one thing is your first 4 appearances, you would sit in that chair, and this is some inside baseball for the FOTMs listening, but
Yes.
you'd sit in that chair, and the camera would be here,
Yes.
angled like that. Then about a month ago, Charlie Angus came over. Did you hear the Charlie Angus episode of Toronto Mike?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so Charlie Angus came over, and I sat him where I always sit my guests, right there. That way I can see them. Like I can't see you without like hurting. So I would stare in the guest's eyes here,
Yeah.
and the camera would be here at this angle. I know there's a lot of visuals here, but work with me, everybody. And that clip, I put a clip online. A couple went kind of viral, basically. One about Wayne Gretzky and another about Pierre Polyev. And they were pretty good sound bites from a guy who's pretty good at making sound bites. And Charlie Angus was riled up, and it was kind of a big moment, and still is. But they're still getting shared quite a bit. And a woman was watching the clip, and she wrote me an email and said, I just saw the clip of Charlie Angus in your studio, and I produced, and I can't remember her name, and she had a long list of shows she was photography person on all these shows and everything. Like she was a big wig in photography or whatever. And she said, you're both looking the same direction. And she said, I have it wrong. And I realized I actually never considered the visual aspect of this show. Like I never considered it. I threw up some cameras and I went. And she's like, you have it backwards for your guest. Cause you need to, like when I look at you, in the visual, we should be looking at each other, but we were looking the same way. So I said, I went back and forth with her, and I said, this is my current setup, and I drew I told her, I said, what should I do? And she said, like, have the guest sit where you are, and then the camera, instead of going this angle, do the exact opposite, which is what we have now.
Yeah.
And voila. So if you watch clips, I put some clips of Marcy Ian online.
Uh-huh.
There was a great moment yesterday. So she knows I know, because I know about she had a relationship with Maestro Fresh West, beloved FOTM. But I'm not going to, she's in my basement, this MP, this honorable one who's a member of cabinet, and I'm not going to out her on that. So I just basically play some Let Your Backbone Slide.
Yeah.
And we talk about the day, because she talks about being a friend, friendly with Maestro. And we're talking about the scene. And then at some point I asked her, so you were just friends? Because I'm not gonna out her. Like this is her job to out herself. Or not that there's no shame in dating the Maestro, Marcy and the Maestro. Imagine that. Imagine Maestro's like the first man or whatever. Okay, so I'm looking her in the eye. We're looking at each other, and I know she knows I know, and we just break out in laughter. Like it's this moment, and she's like, we were good friends, and she's smiling at me with this twinkle in her eye. So I took that clip. I love that clip, and I shared it. And basically, I've got the right camera angle now. Beautiful. This is the long-winded way of saying I modified the camera angle based on this email I got from a woman who saw the Charlie Angus clip and said, Mike, you got it wrong. And I said, lady, I never considered the camera angle. This is a podcast. And now I've got it right.
I did notice the difference. It was nice to see you facing each other in that in that clip.
Okay, so all is well in the world. Number 9.
Oh, number 9. Actually, I had a few subheadings under the
go
attics. Besides the King Edward Hotel, I wanted to talk about. I've actually been up in the attic of the Parkdale Theatre, and that was a fun experience to actually get to go into one of those places that's normally not open. And it's an old theater down on Queen Street by Roncesvalles, and it's now an event center. But when I first found out they were renovating it, I dressed up in my old suit and introduced myself to them, and they said, "Wow, you look like you're from the era." And I said, "Wow, it's really cool. Like, what's up there in the attic?" And they're like, "Oh, there's like about 30 feet up there. You want to go see it?" I went, "Yeah, of course I do." So I got invited up there, and we looked around, and it was very dusty. You could see the old ventilation system and everything, but there was also stuff up there from 1919 when they built the building, and it opened it opened up in 1920, but still there in the dust there was like milk bottles and cigarette packs and everything. And I checked the dates on some of these things. I'm like, these have been up here since the place was built. I can't believe it. Just amazing what was there. So these hidden spaces that we find, it's really cool what you can find in them. And I really hope more of those are retained instead of just everything being facaded, because the inside of buildings have so much character as well.
Love it so much here. Here's what my invitation said.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of exciting to reveal this to you now.
Yes.
So it tells me the date and the time, and it says Crystal Ballroom, King Edward Hotel,
Sweet.
Toronto. So for the last few years, I have spent some quality time in the Crystal Ballroom.
Amazing.
So it's no longer hidden because I've been there, and I tell you, it's very unhidden now.
Yeah. I guess we could call this episode Hidden and Found, or Found and Hidden.
Lost and Found.
Lost and Found.
Lost and Found with Jeremy Hopkin. Okay, amazing.
Also under the subheading of attics, I wanted to talk about the Whitney block of Queen's Park. Have you seen the Whitney block?
Probably.
Okay. It's across the street from Queen's Park, and it's an Art Deco building built in the 20s, but they added a tower in the 30s. That place, also because of fire code, they had to abandon the tower. So it's basically storage now because it had a hand-operated elevator, and there's just staircases, and it's very inaccessible to today's standards. So who knows what they're going to do with that one day, if they're going to make it accessible, but it's a beautiful Art Deco building. I hope they just keep it going.
Amazing.
And I guess that's it for the attics.
So
number 9.
there's some hidden attics that are now been revitalized, and we need the space because it's expensive, like you said.
Exactly. 9 is observation decks. So it's not quite an attic, but it's right up there as well. And there's a few in. Let's see if I can find it here.
That's exciting. Observation decks.
Every building downtown, even from the teens, when they started building these skyscrapers, had an observation deck because for that short amount of time, they were at the tallest building and you could see all around the town. As they built them up and the views got blocked, those places got shuttered or just basically turned into regular office space. So one of the ones I wanted to talk about was the Bank of Commerce building. I've actually been to the observation deck in that building. Every once in a while, for doors open, they open it up. In this occasion, I knew the security guard there, and he said, "Do you want to come up and check it out?" And hell yeah!
Was it Chuck, the security guard?
No, it wasn't Chuck. It was it was another guy, Jess.
Sam Crenshaw.
I wish it was him. That would be really cool, Sam. And I got to go out there. It was nighttime, so it was kind of cool and looking around there and seeing what the view, or just dreaming about what the view might have been back then, because you look around this observation deck now and it's all just buildings all the way around.
Right.
Another deck I've been to recently for doors open was the TD Center building. On the 54th floor, they basically reserved a floor as an observation deck and special meeting room. And it basically got shut off to the public, and eventually they opened it up for special visits like this. Also, City Hall, they recently had a doors open tour for the observation deck there. A lot of people don't know there is an observation deck on the roof, and it had a cafe and a few things up there that you could go to. It's largely unoccupied now. And also the Manulife Center had an observation deck on its 51st floor.
Wait, but why would they not make the observation deck of the new City Hall accessible?
I think it's only really, I don't know if it's a money issue or if it's
Do I need to
a
call
safety
Amber
issue.
Morley right now? I'll call her while you keep talking. Yeah.
it's a really cool space, and I'm sure it would be a great place to have events and also just a cafe and just a hangout spot. But it's normally not open.
I'm gonna see if I can score a future TMLX event in the observation deck of the City Hall.
That would be very cool.
I will make some calls. Diane Sachs takes my calls.
All right. And I think that's about it of the ones that I wanted to highlight it for the observation.
Okay, so we got attics and observation decks. I feel like they're similar but different.
Yeah.
Digging this so far. Okay, so we're on number 8.
Okay, so one of the very first things I thought about was just the underground, things that are hidden, buried underground. And I didn't know until fairly recent that, I started doing research in certain areas that mammoth bones were commonly found in Toronto when they were building the first buildings downtown.
Wow.
And
woolly mammoths.
Woolly mammoths. Apparently, when they were building the Eaton Center, the original Eaton Center, just when it was Timothy Eaton, they found some mammoth bones there. They also found some on DuPont Street and in North York.
DuPont and Dufferin, right? That's the Galleria Mall. They were building the Galleria Mall and they found woolly mammoth bones.
I don't know if they found them there, but
all right.
And yeah, North York, everywhere they did find that, and I was very surprised because I didn't think they had found anything like that. But more recently, they don't because those sites have been already developed, right? So,
wow.
Yeah.
Let me shout out really quickly. I'm working on a change of heart deep dive with couple of members of the founding members of the band Change of Heart. One would be Ian Blurton, of course. And I just bought a ticket to see, there's a couple of shows. There's a new album from Change of Heart, an FOTM band. And they're going to go back to back, like a Friday and a Saturday in April. And they're playing at this garage, which is on Geary Street. And I actually saw a band playing in this garage during the Geary Street Art Crawl that I attended last summer. That's a cool event, but I can't wait to see Change of Heart at this garage on Geary Street. And Geary is like parallel to DuPont, just like a titch north. So this event's very close to the aforementioned Galleria Mall location. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm working on a Change of Heart deep dive with a couple of founding members of the band.
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, come on. That's why we're here, to talk about Hidden Toronto and Change of Heart.
So some more underground Hidden Toronto. When they were digging an intake pipe in Toronto Harbor, the workers stumbled upon a piece of stone that had footprints in it, ancient footprints, indigenous footprints that were all crisscrossing. And I guess at one time that was the lake bottom, and it had become fossilized over the years. And they found this, and because it was just a work project and they didn't really think they could save this thing, they ended up just burying it afterwards and probably destroying part of it. So I'm currently looking into this a little more because I want to find out more about the story, but that just seems amazing that they dug underground, under the lake, and then found this amazing discovery.
I feel like that could have been used. They built out all these spits or whatever, these man-made spits. There's one near here, Sam Smith, Colonel Samuel Smith Park, and there's like spits, or I guess they're called spits, and it's like man-made shoreline.
Oh yeah,
but it's just all the junk they dug out. Like we could have it there.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
You never know what you're going to find in some of these places.
Amazing. Usually it's just like old rounded brick or whatever that's been eroded by the waves over the decades.
There's also in the ground, I was thinking another hidden thing in Toronto is the old garbage dumps. Apparently there are about 160 garbage dumps that were in the city of Toronto, the current borders, and none of them are really open anymore. They've all been closed more than 40 years ago. Currently, the solid waste pretty much goes out to this place. Oh, where was that again? It's out by London, Ontario. All of our waste is trucked out there. We don't just throw it into
outer space?
No, it's it would be nice if we could shoot it into the sun. It would just burn off, but no, we can't do that.
No, because I feel like those chemicals would be harmful.
Yeah.
We burn those off.
So
I think you put them in like a big cargo ship and send it to the Philippines or something.
Oh, no. I hope not.
And then they send it back.
Oh, man. As new products, I guess.
Why not?
So
is there any garbage dumps in New Toronto I should be aware of? And I'm putting you on the spot. You probably don't have all.
I don't know any of the ones in New Toronto. I do know that
there's still a dump maybe it's a special kind of dump, but there's one at Jane and Dundas. It's been there forever, I feel, because there's a library at Jane and Dundas.
Oh, okay.
And then there was now it's Pizza Nova, I think, but it was forever a Dairy Queen when I was growing up. And then the other side, there's a dump.
Oh, okay. 'Cause
by the train tracks.
sometimes they do allow clean fill now, but as far as dumping something that will rot and become, have methane off gassing, it seems like they don't really do that anymore. But I'll have to look into that one too.
Now, Canada Kev chimes in that Eglinton Park's awesome toboggan hill is on top of a landfill.
Oh wow, I that's a good point. Wow.
And now I'm thinking, I just watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the two little ones, the 1990 version.
Mm-hmm.
So the sequel is coming up next with the legendary rapper Vanilla Ice.
Oh, yeah.
Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. And it's called Secret of the Ooze. And I'm just wondering, like, if these like toboggan hills on landfills is how we get mutants.
It could be, because a lot of these old sites have leachate that leaks out from the places and sometimes makes a toxic plume that goes wherever the water flows.
This is how this is an origin story for many a superhero.
I know Riverdale Park is an old dump site, and there are a few other ones that have been turned into parks over the years. But sometimes you'll know where they are. There'll be a vent pipe that comes out of the ground to vent the methane. Now, some places in the States have actually harnessed that methane and turned it into fuel. Here we haven't done it yet, but in any of the sites that Toronto has.
Fascinating.
But some of them burn it off, though. You'll see little flames at the end of the pipe just burning off this methane.
Well, you think that's methane. I think that's something else, but to be discussed.
Okay. Other than that,
do you have to mark a dump like when we have these unmarked dumps? Because Canada Kev's wondering if Christie Pits started as a dump.
Christie Pits was a sand pit, so I don't think they really. There was a possibility it could have been turned into a dump, but they didn't do that, and it became a park so early that really there was no chance for it to become a dump.
And stay tuned. I hope to be recording live from Christie Pits, be it whatever it was. I know what it is now. It's where the Toronto Maple Leafs play, and I hope to be back there this summer.
I had an amazing time there with you and Tyler that day. That was really cool.
Well, we're going to duplicate that. Maybe we'll add some guy named Cito. Maybe we'll add him to the roster. Stay tuned.
Yes. So the current City of Toronto dump is in South Wold, Ontario, and there's this huge complex there where they contain all this the off run and everything, and there's farms all around it, so hopefully they've contained it very well there.
Hopefully.
Yeah. The next one is number 7.
Number 7.
Hidden cemeteries.
Oh, good.
Toronto does have some hidden cemeteries.
I saw
around.
Poltergeist. This is a bad idea.
Well, are they going to burst through the wall soon here? Are you on a...
Tell me more, because
are you on an ancient Indian native burial ground here?
Probably.
Okay. Indigenous, sorry.
Right. You're quoting the movies, so it's anachronistic. Okay. Please tell me more about these hidden cemeteries.
Well, some of them are hidden from view, like St. Michael's Catholic Cemetery at Yonge and St. Clair. It has buildings and trees surrounding the place, and you can't see it from the road. So even though this thing is 10 acres, you don't see it. And a lot of people have commented about what's that there, and I had to look into it because I never saw it either from the road. So there was that one. There's also one that you go by it so fast that it's basically hidden. It's between the interchange of the 427 and the 401. There's the Richview Cemetery in Etobicoke. It's right between those two, and it has about 300 or about 500 people in there. Oh no, sorry, I think it's about 300.
Well, shout out to Votto, Joey Votto. I think he's from that neck of the woods.
And there's also...
I almost called him Jeremy Votto.
Oh.
Because I'm staring at you.
Yep.
And I'm like, Jeremy Votto? No, come on. Joey Votto.
You have so many names in your head. I don't know how you keep
Well, we
track.
got to get Joey Votto on the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. So it all ties together. I'm still working on that one.
Incredible.
Can you imagine?
Good luck.
There's going to be a woman pitcher.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
A Japanese woman, she's a phenom, is going to pitch for the Toronto Maple Leafs at Christie Pits.
Wow, that's amazing.
Maybe her first start. Maybe that's the day we record live. I got to talk to FOTM Keith Stein about this.
Jeez, that'll be incredible. Wow.
I like when you visit. I can work things out with you. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And one more gravesite that I wanted to talk about was one in my hood that I grew up in Scarborough. We also always knew it as Tabor Hill, and didn't know really the history behind it until you go up to the stone and it says it's an ossuary for an indigenous for the Huron and Wendat. They would have this event every few years where they would go to the various sites where people were buried, exhume the bones, and then bring them to the site and have a feast of the souls, and then inter them in this big hill, which I kind of think was a drumlin, like a geological formation from the Ice Age. Basically, something gets stuck and makes a big hill, natural hill. And yeah, the indigenous community visited there many years. It was a very sacred site to them. In the 1950s, developers came along and wanted to put a housing subdivision there, ran their plows into it, and
subdivisions,
and discovered there's a whole bunch of bones here. And the news got out quick enough that they couldn't really haul them away and flatten the hill.
So what? I mean, I don't know if you'll have these answers, but
Yes.
What happens in that situation when a bunch of developers decide to go into some ground and they find bones?
Back in the 1950s, anything could happen, really.
Right. All bets were off in the 50s.
If nobody saw it back then, there was a good chance it could just be put into a dump site. And a couple places in Toronto that actually happened. It's a little hush-hush about that happening, but it was a whole different time, a different era. And some of the burial sites have been relocated nicely. I did a story a little while ago about this one up by High Park area where they were basically fixing the road in the area, and they discovered a burial site there of the red the red clay people, I think they were called, and they were buried huddled together with this red sort of oxide on them. And he wanted to do what was best. He consulted the chief of the Ojibwe at the time on what to do, and basically he had his blessing to reinter them in the ground there, and he did. And
wow.
yeah, so it depends on who finds it, I guess, who respects the land and who respects the history.
Right.
And and how many eyes are looking at the time to see that you're doing the right thing.
Wow. Okay, you're bringing the heat today, Jeho. I don't think there'll be many Robert Lawson fact checks required today. You're bringing the heat.
I sure hope not.
Maybe we'll spend every time you visit, there's a longer period of time off the top where you fact check things you said in previous episodes. And then we realize it's 90 minutes of correcting yourself and we don't have time to do a new episode.
Well, luckily I didn't have too many corrections. The corrections went down as the episodes went on and I got more comfortable. So
good. Okay. You comfortable right now?
I am, but my daughter got me up at 4 a.m. and I've been up since then. So her legs were hurting. So
are you going to be okay for this hockey game tonight? You're going to get a nap
I'm
in
going to
there?
have a little nap before then. Yeah.
I actually, okay, so yesterday, my wife worked from home yesterday, and I heard her on a work call, and somebody was legitimately asking the question, if you have toddlers, which I no longer have toddlers.
Yes.
But I've had 4 toddlers, and now they're not toddlers. But the question was, how do you nap with toddlers? That was a question. And this young woman was like, I don't know if I want to sacrifice naps to be a mother or whatever. It was sort of the vibe going on here. And I'm listening to this and I'm realizing I have never napped. I almost said mapped. Shout out to Esri Canada. I have never napped. Like, unless I'm feverish with a flu or something, I've never napped. Like, I sleep during the night.
Yes.
And then if I'm tired, I plow through the day and I go to bed at maybe a little early, maybe like 10 p.m. or something like that. I don't know. But I've never napped. But it sounds like you can nap.
I can. I can nap, but sometimes it's a marathon nap and it turns into a full sleep.
Well, I'm kind of jealous of you nappers.
Of
like, I feel like I'm missing out on like there's a hack, like a life hack. And I know I've heard, I don't know, like Winston Churchill or whatever. There's these quotes from people who are like, if you have a nap, it divides. You got 2 days of kind of thing. I just have never napped, and I don't want to waste my day napping.
Yes.
I'd rather just plow through and sleep at night. But anyway, I think I got it wrong. I'm just kind of envious that you might be able to nap before this hockey game tonight.
I might be able to, but
you might have to if you were awakened at 4 a.m. My alarm went off at 7:30 a.m. this morning.
It could also ruin me, though. I notice if I get to a certain nap length, if I almost hit REM and I'm pulled out of it, I'll be
that can mess you up.
I'll be a wreck for the rest of the day.
You're like a zombie. Don't operate heavy machinery.
Definitely.
No snowblowers. Do you have a snowblower?
No, I'm actually in an apartment, so I let the other people do it for me.
Okay, because this past week we got a little snow,
Yes.
and it's probably like I do have a moment of like, oh, like that's a lot of snow I'm about to like shovel, and I don't have much place to put it. Like it would be nice to run some machine over it, but then I'm like, fuck that. Like I'm kicking it old school. Now this will probably kill me. Like at some point, in, like I'll be 60 something years old and I'll just have a heart attack. I keep hearing about the shoveling heart attacks, but if that's how I gotta go, that's how I'm gonna go. I don't feel the need, at least at 50 years of age. I'm a little older than you, but at 50 years of age, I don't feel the need to run a machine over it in Toronto. Maybe if I lived up in Barrie or something, it would be, or where Dan J lives, I might need a snowblower.
You see, though, you're a fit guy. You're always bicycling out there and everything.
Yeah,
so
out there today.
You're keeping your heart going all the time. A lot of the people.
Oh, is that what it is?
A lot of the people that go out there for a snow shovel, it's just all of a sudden there's that huge strain on them. And
I'm glad we had this chat
kills
because
them.
because now that I'm 50, I'm like, I'm thinking, I know people who have gone out to shovel a lot of snow.
Oh yeah,
and they had a heart attack
all
at
the
50.
time. All the time. I see tons of articles too in the papers. Historically, tons of people have died in those shoveling accidents.
Because again, not to pat my own self in the back here, but I do get pretty good exercise every single day with these 30K rides or whatever it will be. So that might save my life on snowy days because I don't have a snowblower.
Yes.
Thank you, J-Ho.
And you probably have good lifting technique as well.
I do try to lift with my legs or whatever.
Good.
I don't want to break out the back. So not only are you the official Toronto mic'd historian, you are also our medical advisor. Please continue. So the cemeteries, I can't let the cemeteries go by.
Yeah.
Although Canada Kev got a snowblower, so he won't have a heart attack.
Good.
We don't want Canada
We want
Kev.
Canada Kev around.
But now that before we leave the cemeteries, I just want to make sure we have shouted out Ridley Funeral Home.
Yes.
Okay. Always. There's no better place to go when you kick the bucket than Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of this community. I don't care what community you're in. Have them bust the body to Ridley at 14th and Lakeshore.
And I was very impressed with Brad and his snow shoveling technique. Did you see his roof?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But he's got 6 kids to help him.
Oh, that's good at least. Okay.
He's made a little army of...
Plus, he recently hired a new guy, right?
well, he's hired Joe from T... I don't know if this is public. I'll share it now. But Joe from TO, who was my first best friend. We were best friends in junior kindergarten.
Oh, very cool.
And he was traveling around the world with his family. He took a year off teaching to travel around the world. And he was in Cambodia or something when the COVID pandemic struck. And he came on to talk about like decisions they had to make, how it changed things and how plans were altered because of COVID. And his son is going to work at Ridley Funeral Home, which is cool.
Wonderful.
Amazing. Okay. Next.
It always helps to hire somebody that you know.
Or somebody that you know who knows somebody that you know. It always works out.
Yeah.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Hiring family can be problematic sometimes, but...
Yeah, but it's okay. You're hiring somebody who knows somebody's family.
Yes.
That's okay.
So now we're at number 6. I wanted to talk a little bit about hidden rivers and creeks of Toronto.
I was hoping you'd do the hidden rivers. Always fascinated by this.
The main one, I didn't want to touch on too many because I've probably already gone way over time, is Garrison Creek. That's probably one of the most famous. It kind of wound its way through Toronto from the upper areas and went all the way down through the Garrison at Fort York. And a lot of it, pretty much all of it, has been buried now underground, and it goes through sewers, and it's just gone. And
wild.
It also went through Trinity Bellwoods Park, and there was a bridge going over it that once they buried all the water, they didn't need the bridge anymore. So
But how do they bury it without killing it? Like, you know what I mean?
It's all put through pipes. It's
Pipes.
just put through the sewer system or through a drainage system, and it just goes out to the lake.
Speaking of Canada Kev, he knows his pipes as well. So.
Very nice. So that one interesting thing in that park is that bridge is still there, and they just buried it. It's when you go over the Crawford Street Bridge, it's still there, but in the ground.
I love when I see these maps of like, hidden rivers and streams in this city, and you're like, oh, I had no idea.
And there's so many, and people's opinions on, like, Toronto, basically in the 1700s, early 1800s, a lot of that lower area was swamplands, and everybody basically thought that's why we're getting sick. So a lot of it was filled in because of that, because they didn't like swamp areas. They didn't like catfish ponds. Well, they did, but they didn't. And even in the history of Scarborough, since I know a little bit more of that, David and Mary Thompson, who are credited as the first people living there in Scarborough, David Thompson worked in Scarborough, helped build the first Parliament buildings that were here. that were later burnt down by the Americans. He
Fuck the Americans.
he basically moved to Scarborough because it was the highlands of Toronto, and his wife had some health issues, and this is the story I've heard is the reason why they went all the way out there, even though he worked downtown, which is a long haul for him to come in. That's where they went to live because they were trying to escape all of those rivers. So you can see why a lot of those were buried. Also, accidents over the years. I know there was one river going through the beaches area that they basically completely covered up because some boys had been playing in it and drowned. So you'd have that as well, where people would demonize the watersheds that were in the area because of just, bad luck like that. So
very interesting.
yeah. And so now we have a lot of those hidden. There's a lot of great websites out there about the Lost Rivers of Toronto that you can check out as well.
And I'll do so.
Okay.
You've inspired me.
Hidden transit.
Is this number 5?
Oh, sorry. This is number 5.
We need the big number 5.
Number 5.
Like a real radio show.
I wanted to talk about some hidden transit things, such as I've past couple Halloweens I've gotten to visit this place, the Lower Bay Station. Have you ever been in there?
Yeah, there was a Nuit Blanche
Oh, yeah.
event I attended before I had these kids ruining my all-night adventures, and the new 2 anyway. And it was open, and people were like sleeping on it. Like, so we got to like at 3 a.m. We were my wife and I were wandering around Lower Bay, checking it out. People in pajamas sleeping on it, like as part of this Nuit Blanche event.
Incredible.
It was super neat. Yeah, to see Lower Bay.
Very cool. And it was in use, but only for 6 months. It was an experiment where they were trying to interweave the subways that were going through there on both the lines, and they found out it was just a horrible failure, so they just ended up closing it up, and it became a transfer track, or just whenever they needed to do some testing, or
filming.
Or if they wanted to make some money on filming, revenue on filming. It does some great business down there with movies. And when you go down there at Halloween, they have a lot of the movie clips playing for the movies that have shot down there, and some of the posters up there. So that's really cool.
But that's an expensive experiment, right? Like, this is, that's a lot of effort and money and time to shutter it after 6 months.
It is. And I think they thought it was a very promising thing to do in that situation, but it just led to longer wait times, and they just had to abandon it.
So explain to me again. So of course there's Bay Station.
Yes.
So what was the idea behind Lower Bay?
Basically they wanted, it was an interlining experiment. So they ran the trains along 3 routes, and then I don't know quite exactly how it worked underground, but the way that this would turn around, you could have the trains going both ways and interleaving, and it's very hard to explain without diagrams.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, you'll notice around the city, this is a subheading of the hidden transit, hidden streetcar tracks. You'll see them basically buried under the pavement a lot of the places that you go. And lines like the Danforth line, when they brought the subway across, they abandoned them in pieces. So there's certain places like at Woodbine, you can see the end of the loop that's there off of this street called, what is that one called again? Strathmore Boulevard. And there's also an abandoned passageway to get from that streetcar area to the subway area. And it's just basically storage now as well.
Right. Like, I know places like Blog.to and stuff will often like have a photo of like, these are the tracks to nowhere.
Yeah. And the city does try to quickly close them up now because tragically in 2012, a cyclist was cycling near the old Witchwood Barns where Artscape Witchwood is, and hit a track and then ended up flipping and hitting their head on the ground and dying.
Glad you brought this up.
That was Joe Mavick.
Joe Mavick.
Yeah.
The streetcar tracks, because on Lakeshore, the streetcar track. So I mentioned my 8-year-old is biking in the winter. We bike today to her school. And we have to cross Lakeshore, and we have the same conversation before we cross paths every single time, which is we say the magic P word, which is perpendicular. And basically, I won't let her cross in wet conditions or snowy conditions.
Yes.
I won't let her cross streetcar tracks unless she is absolutely perpendicular to the tracks because it's like black ice. I went, and I've been very careful because I'm on the blood thinners and I'm not supposed to crash. But a few weeks ago, I wasn't exactly perpendicular. I was like a 45-degree angle, and my tires still got locked into the slipperiest of slippery, which is those damn streetcar tracks. They really are the most dangerous thing out there in rain and storms, and all cyclists must be very, very careful when crossing streetcar tracks. And that's one to grow on, Jeremy.
Now you know.
And now you know.
So the city did come up with a plan to actually cover up a lot of these tracks because it's more expensive to pull them out. It's quite a big cost. So
I was gonna say you need to like rough them up or whatever, like so they're not smooth anymore.
Yeah, something. So,
Get out there, start carving them up a bit. There's got to be a way.
So I personally like seeing those things and those remnants around because I'm weird like that and I love the history, but I can see why that would be just horrible and it's sad that somebody had to die for them to really pay attention to that.
Well, I always we drive on Lakeshore and there's the Legion very close to near not far from Jameson, I guess, but the Legion on Lakeshore near Jameson. And they have a ghost bike there. And my kids are always asking about the ghost bike. And I tell them the story of Xavier Morgan. Like I tell them, I said, until Xavier Morgan at 5 years old was biking, so he's biking on the waterfront trail, which is separated from Lakeshore, but he's biking west with his grandpa, I think. Oh. And he's only 5. So he goes off, accidentally loses control and goes into oncoming traffic and dies. Oh. And then immediately fences go up. And now there's permanent fences there. So the next 5-year-old biking that exact same route who loses control will hit the fence instead of going on Lakeshore where the cars are driving pretty fast. Yeah. And it's kind of, you look at it and you look at it and you go, oh, that makes sense. We just had to lose a 5-year-old before we implemented it. Like so many things that I look at now that, oh, that's a good idea. We didn't consider them until somebody died.
I know. It's very sad that has to happen for that to really be pushed forward. But when city budgets come up and that sort of, there's that drive to get elected. People don't want to see more expenses. They want to see more frugality from the politicians as well. So it's just everyone has to get on board and push ahead with that. Me, now that I have kids, I want there to be bollards everywhere. I'm like, well, you're on the sidewalk, you're not safe.
Well, you're so close to a lakeshore where people drive pretty quick. It's not a highway, but it's kind of close actually, especially if there's room to move. And then you realize like, oh yeah, you only got a meter or so between the actual bike lane and it's a hill, right? You're going down the hill. Because that's where the Legion is there. You just look for the big poppy.
Oh, okay.
It's right where the giant poppy is there, and it was an accident waiting to happen. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I digress.
That's sad. So I guess
what number we
move on to number 4.
Number 4.
Hydropower residential substations. Have you ever seen any of those around?
So many on Islington.
Oh, okay.
So many.
There was about 150 in Toronto. Now there's only about 90 because as technology progresses and they figure out better ways to hardwire all of this, they don't really need to have these stations. But depending on the neighborhood you go, you'll have this nice looking house, nothing in it except for a big transformer.
Yeah, I just now thinking about it. So between like Bloor and Queensway on Islington, there's a few.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if they did that for the telephone stations. I don't think they did, but a lot of the old telephone exchanges are in big buildings as well, like that you can't get into, but they look really cool. A lot of them downtown are pretty interesting looking, but I think even those, as technology progresses, they might not need those anymore and they may be converted into other uses.
So you said there's still 90 of these things? So the facade, it looks like a house, like in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, it looks just like a bungalow or whatever type of house is in that neighborhood. And
although they always have a sign, like a warning sign or something about don't the hazardous, I don't know, electricity. There's like a lightning bolt on it or something.
They will have that on the sign and on the front. And also, I know early on they had fancy doors and they looked a little more like they were a house, but now they all have those solid metal doors, and you really wouldn't mistake them now.
Yeah, those I always find those interesting. The fake homes.
Yeah. Number 3.
So what is in these fake homes? Like there's like
It's basically relays, transformers, you name it, anything to transfer the power to the neighborhood. So you're basically, it's like a condenser or something like that in a piece of electronics. You're coming off the main power off the wall, or the main power from the big station, and these are substations to delve out that power to the smaller applications in the houses.
and shout out to Eminem, black stations, white stations. And they named, yesterday when I was talking to Marcy about Maestro, I pulled out my Maestro Fresh West 12-inch of Let Your Backbone Slide, which is over here.
Very cool.
And I always know that was 89 because Maestro name checks the year in the song. It's 89, y'all, not Beethoven's 5th or 6th. So he name checks the year. Black Stations, White Stations by Martha and the Muffins, who were going by Eminem at the time because Mark didn't want to be a Muffin anymore. I had him in the basement to ask him all about that. But they name check it. There's a line in that song, this is 1984. So you always know what year it was. Mm-hmm. Maybe all songs should name check the year so we can stamp it. Okay, that's my new idea.
We're going to party like it's 1999.
Okay, well, that was the wrong year. That'll confuse people. You're right.
So I guess we're on to that. It was just about those stations. So
okay, I love it.
Now we're on to number 3.
Number 3.
I just wanted to touch on ghost signs, which I've talked about in the past, but these are being discovered all the time whenever buildings are coming down. Like when Honest Ed's came down, they left one of the buildings up and there was this beautiful Quaker Oats sign on the side there. And these are still hidden around Toronto, and we're going to see more and more of them as things get ripped down. Recently, they did some work right beside the Royal Alex, and 2 ghost signs appeared there. One of them was sort of visible before, but the other one was a little bit darker because it had been more exposed than the other one. So I eventually deciphered it, and I'm going to write an article about that too, because I did a lot of research into the property, and they made undergarments for people and suspenders and, and all that. Well,
I love the ghost signs.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, and we got to make sure we can differentiate between the legit ghost signs. And I don't want anybody up there faking a ghost sign. You know what I mean? Like just painting it so it looks like it's from the 40s.
You want the OG lead paint. That's where it's at.
A lot of people wear. Well, you're wearing one right now, actually, but and it's cool. You're wearing like a raccoon shirt, right? Mm-hmm. Like in tribute to this show. But what I want is the 1985 raccoon shirt, and they may not have made any because nobody thought like that back in the day. But it's like when you see the CBC retro, like I want the OG. Like I don't want the faux retro, but you know. And you see a lot of Nirvana shirts out there, okay, or Ramones, okay. I don't want you going into H&M and buying a Ramones shirt or whatever. Yeah, I want that Ramones shirt you got from CBGB's back in the 70s.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah,
be so worn out though by now.
Shout out to CBGB's. Yes. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home.
And CBC, your retro CBC shirt, that's the OG right there.
Well, I have one that's faux retro, and my daughter got me. And then I do have the real deal from 1976, the Montreal Olympics.
That one's so cool.
And it's flammable, so I have to be careful when I wear it.
It's 1,000% polyester, I guess. it's almost flames.
It is not on those warm days. I'm like, I regret having this CBC personality over.
Oh man. So I did write a chapter in a book called what was that again? Signs That Define, brought out by Spacing Magazine and an architectural company, and I touched a lot on the signs and how they were made and how there were some dangers to the people that actually even made them with the amount of lead paint that was used, and a lot of these guys would mix it on the spot. So that's the reason why a lot of these old signs are still around, because the lead paint in them, it basically defies time. And there's also some good situations too where another building will be built right up against it after it was painted, so you don't have any weathering. So I'm on the lookout for those constantly.
So how often would you contribute to Spacing Magazine?
Not as often as I'd like to. I'm currently actually...
Do you want me to write FOTM Sean McAuliffe right now?
Oh, that'd be cool. We chat every once in a while though online, but just through posts. But yeah, that'd be really cool.
See, I don't think Sean is in the country right now because I follow him on Blue Sky, and I think he's out of the country. But this is the kind of time where Sean loves Toronto because he loves to put on his cross country skis.
Yes,
he skis the city, and as you know, as a Torontonian, like last winter there was no opportunity. Like I looked at my biking stats from 2020 from last winter. And it was like a snow-free. We had more snow in this past week than we got all last winter.
Oh, wow.
Okay? But Sean McAuliffe, if he was in Toronto right now would be in heaven because it is very, very skiable all over this city, and it's been that way for several days now.
Yes.
Shout out to Spacey.
And I am currently doing a. Oh, sorry, I'm a little.
You drink. You know what? You
Sorry
drink.
about that.
Listen, we can't lose our young Toronto historian. You're doing a great job. So we're in the final two, right? You're almost home.
Yes.
You've been kicking ass as normal. At the very end of this, we'll see if you have any ideas for the next topic because you're going to be back here next quarter. But
Right on.
we're on number 2.
Okay. So number 2 is a place that's now a museum called the Toll Keeper's Cottage. And it's at 740 Davenport Road at Bathurst. And it's known as, they're pretty sure that that's the only toll keeper's cottage where the toll keeper would live and actually collect fares that exists in Canada today.
Wow.
And it was almost lost because, there was 5 of these toll places along Davenport between Humber and the Don River. It was built in 1835. And it's actually built of a rare vertical plank construction where they, instead of putting the planks like this, like horizontal, they actually had them standing straight up. So on Howland Avenue, there was a developer that was going to redevelop a property, and they were told by a neighbor, that's an old toll keeper's cottage. And they're like, no, it isn't. But they investigated and they pulled the clapboard away and they looked underneath and they're like, yeah, this is. And so the developer basically was nice to them and said, well, you got 90 days to remove it from the property. And some people gathered together to save this thing and they turned it into a museum. And it's not part of the Toronto museums that are actually run by the city. It's a distinct group just for that building. So it's a very interesting site. They've got it now on the corner there where there used to be a streetcar or a bus loop. I think it was, I'm not sure what it was, but they reused that property and put this cottage there, and it's now a museum, an interpretive center.
I love that, people get together and save things like that.
Yeah, for years, from the 1830s right up until 1996, whenever it stopped being a toll keeper's cottage, somebody hauled it up, turned it into their house, and it just sat there ever since. So there's things hidden like that all over Toronto that you wouldn't know. And yeah, it just looked like a regular house in the neighborhood. So that was lost and found.
Lost and found. Hey, on the live stream, there's a question about cobblestone streets.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know there's a cobblestone street. There's the hills that kind of, I'm thinking of Etienne Brule Park, and not far from the old mill. There's, I don't know, Riverside. I can't remember the names of these streets as you come up. And I know there's Lessard Park is at the top. And now you're at like Jane and Colbeck kind of area. But there is a cobblestone street that I still there. And it's kind of neat to see. It's like, oh, where am I? Am I in old Europe or something? But are there a lot of cobblestone streets still active in Toronto? Because Kev used to live a block away from Elmsthorpe Avenue in North Toronto. And it's still cobblestone for one block. And I'm thinking there are these pockets.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like Distillery District, I guess, has some cobblestone, right?
Well, Distillery does have some now. It was actually trucked in from the States from buildings being torn down, but it's there. But if you look at some of the bricks, you can even see some of the United States names in there. But it's great that they did it there because a lot of insurance companies wouldn't like that as well. But there is a lot of cobblestone in amongst some of the streetcar lines that are still around. You'll see that sort of packing the tracks, right? Yeah. And yeah, that still exists in some spots. What else? There was actually corduroy roads at one point that were made out of wood. And in the 1920s, they found them every once in a while. But those are from like the 1800s, so they'd be long rotted by now. But yeah, cobblestones, it's very rare in Toronto. You can go to Montreal, you'll find tons, but here, not so much.
Very interesting. And now that brings us to...
Number one. Hidden bank vaults. You'll find these in certain places because they're just too damn big to move. So a lot of times people have readapted these bank vaults into a new use. Like the prime example I'm going to name here is the at 1 King West. It was a bank building, a bank skyscraper, and it's now an event venue where their big lockup used to be down in the basement. So you can go have your wedding down there in the bank vault.
Fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, just very cool. It's a 40-ton door. So, they could have recycled it, but it would be very hard to. So they adaptively reused that because it was so hard to move. But you go around to a lot of the old buildings in the city, you'll find bank vaults or safes that just haven't been moved because it's huge and it would cost them a lot to move. So I know in Leaside there's an old bank building that's now a bar, and it has the old safe in the back, and you'll find those from time to time here and there.
Did they leave any gold bars behind?
That's the thing. They never really left those behind. No Al Capone's vault or anything like that.
Well, good, because, they broke into the vault at Capone and they couldn't find Jack, so they all went home.
Yep.
Okay. It's all about Maestro on Toronto Mike.
Right on.
But my friend, this Hidden Toronto episode hit it out of the park, but have you even given any thought? Again, I feel bad because you just birthed a baby, okay? And I'm asking you, are you going to get pregnant again? And what are you going to do? But have you considered the topic for Q2 2025?
Q2, I haven't exactly considered it yet.
Can people suggest topics?
I would love that, yeah. If people,
how can they reach you to suggest a topic?
Well, I've completely dumped X now, so you'll have to get me on Blue Sky, Jeremy Hopkin, .bluesky.com, I think, or one of those.
Basically, search Jeremy Hopkin on Blue Sky and you will find this man. I follow him. He's a good follow.
I'm still on Facebook and I'm still on Instagram too, and I'm still on Threads, but that might be the next one to go.
I had to leave it a long time ago, based on the fact that I did not like it.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't. Apparently.
But I'll post our photo. We're gonna take a photo right now.
Yes.
I'll post it on Instagram. I don't do anything on Instagram, but I post the photo and I do the same blurb I put in the other places, and I just copy and paste it down. And Instagram likes to tease you. Like, you'll see 2 lines of something, and then it'll be like, go to Threads to see this.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm not interested. I'm not going to Threads to see that. Thank you for teasing me. I have no interest in clicking through.
Yeah.
But Instagram likes to put Thread stuff in there
to
try to get you to cross over. But I ain't playing that game. But we can find you on social. You're on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Jeremy Hopkin or Hopkin Design. You can find me under either of those on there.
So if you have a suggestion, because he's going to make 3 more visits in 2025, and we do have, there's sequels we could do to the films thing, and there's a lot of ideas floating around. But if you, like Moose Grumpy, suggested this topic, and you went with it, and I loved it, if anyone out there has an idea for Jeremy Hopkin, his top 10, as he does every quarter, reach out to him. Slide into his DM. Let him know. And if you can't find Jeremy Hopkin, just write me, Mike@torontomike.com. I'll flip it to Jeremy. And you were great again, buddy. And your voice held on there. It's very dry, right? Because of all the heaters going.
Oh, definitely. At our house, we've imported so much distilled water. It's insane.
Wow. And that brings us to the end of our 1,635th show. 1635. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. I'm also active on Blue Sky at torontomike.com. Much love to all who made this possible. That is Great Lakes Brewery. They're actually here soon to record a new episode of Between Two Fermenters. They're next on the calendar.
It's a good show.
Palma Pasta does not have a podcast. What's going on? But they got delicious food. Go to palmapasta.com. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Building Toronto Skyline. That's a podcast from Nick Iones. And Ridley Funeral Home. They actually have a great podcast called Life's Undertaking with the aforementioned Brad Jones. I get to co-host that show. See you all tomorrow when making her Toronto Mic'd debut is Christine Maitland. That'll be on the live stream at 11 a.m. tomorrow. See you then. Go Canada, go!